Welcome back to Frederick Advice Givers, episode 140. Eric Verdi here. We are at 104 B Street in Greencastle, Pennsylvania. As you can see from the B-roll, from the footage, awesome bar, restaurant, cool vibe here, old building in downtown historic Greencastle. Today, Brian Hissong, the owner, co-owner
with my wife.
Co-owner of this lovely establishment here. So give us like the back, before we get into the interview, I know we're in a very cool building, like give us the backstory of the building.
Well, my understanding of the building, it's approximately, it's over 200 years old.
Okay.
I have the original deed to the land signed by Allison, is his last name.
Okay.
The building actually was put together in 3 different phases by what we understand. It's been a hotel for several years. The history that I know about it started out as the McLaughlin Hotel. There's a picture I have in here of a big old guy sitting with a tie.
Right.
Just the perfect consummate of what a bar owner would look like back in the 30s and 40s. The bar is very similar in location to where it was back then, is what I've been told. Went through a couple of renditions, a couple of different owners. Most prominently, I think it was back in the 70s, it was called Antrim House Restaurant.
Okay.
At that time is whenever buffets were very, very big.
Right.
Then through a lot of different transitions, a lot of different remodels, bringing it up to where we are today as a hotel, was converted to a restaurant with apartments above.
Okay. So where we're sitting, we're on the first floor.
You're on the first floor.
Of the restaurant. So above us is apartments?
Apartments now, yes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I know when we walked in, it was almost like you're going in a hotel feel.
That's correct.
So that was very cool.
Correct.
All right, Brian, so our audience that doesn't know you, like give us your backstory. Like who are you? Who's Brian Hissong?
I'm a little old farm boy that came up from Mercersburg, PA.
Awesome.
My father, at the age I was a junior, we were sitting in church. My father stood up and said he's leaving the farm. I realized at that point in time I'm not going to be a farmer, so decided to go to college. I made it through 4 years of college. As a backstory, after you fail out 3 times of college, they ask you not to come back.
Where do you go to college?
I went to Millersville.
Okay.
Because that's where my future wife went, and I followed her. She transferred to Shippensburg. I transferred back.
Nice.
Wasn't the smartest thing. I just followed my love.
So same lady that you're married to now is who you followed around?
We still are.
Awesome.
High school sweethearts.
Awesome, high school sweethearts.
She kept me.
That's very unusual. So good for
Yes,
you,
it
man.
is.
Good for you. So how did you get the idea of opening up this restaurant/bar?
Well, it came to pass in the sense my wife and I was in the corporate world for about 12 years.
Doing what?
I was actually a salesman for Eldorado Stone.
Okay.
And covered the Michigan, Ohio, Western PA. And then we traveled around the country, at different places to go to architects and all that. Had a gentleman in my life who was a very big mentor who came and was actually a preacher and was my boss. And he said, if you ever want to truly be something, that you're called to be in life, entrepreneurial, you need to go out and buy investment property. You need to become, I love freedom. I want to be able to go visit my kids anytime I can. So he said, you need to really create an opportunity for yourself. Write a book. Book was Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Right.
And there's a lot of good truth in it. A lot of chapters they don't say in there that you learn as you go through business. Started buying some property. So we bought this property 13, 14 years ago.
Okay.
In the building, I never wanted to be a restaurateur. I just wanted to rent it out to people. So for the first 5 years, I had people who owned what was called the Antrim House at the time. They just rented this location, and it was their baby to run with. After they chose to close down, I was able to get a gentleman from Mercersburg to come in.
Okay.
He rented it for another 5 years. Started to slowly transition it from a buffet to more of a bar, modern type of restaurant for a small town. After 5 years with him, he had the opportunity to buy a place locally here that he could own. So kudos to that. My wife and I decided at that time, with the way liquor laws go in Pennsylvania, to own a liquor license is very valuable.
Right.
And there's only a few that you can actually get. So the laws regulate how to be able to sell liquor. So for us, that's a very important part of generating funds when you want to be able to sell alcohol in PA. So we decided to become a small partnership with two other entities or two other gentlemen, and did a lot of remodeling, did a lot of work. Visions weren't quite the same, so it ultimately ended up that 6 months ago my wife and I became 100% ownership. So I had no desire to be in a restaurant, and I am.
So are you running the day-to-day operations here? Do you have a executive chef or a restaurant manager? Or, yeah.
Yes, great question. I have a tremendous chef who came with me 8 months ago by the name of Chris Fisher, and just changed the flair and the style and started to change the vibe of who this was. Right. Which in restaurant industry, we had a second chance to make a first impression. Excuse me. And then a gentleman that I had been courting for on and off for 7 years, finally gave me the A-OK in January. He's the managing partner. His name is Jeremy Jones. Okay. Came on board and took us from where we are to skyrocketing us to truly a different level when it comes to food, culture, and just something different that we're trying to do. Okay. In town here. So Jeremy really.
So what did Jeremy do before you getting him over here?
Jeremy was with the gentleman that I brought here 8 years ago. Okay. And they parted ways after a year that he was here. He's been to Colorado. He's been down to DC, Puerto Rico. No. Puerto Rico or somewhere down there he went. Okay. He's been all around the place. He finally came back, married, has 3 children, settled in. He has a gentleman in Chambersburg by the name of Pat Young, who is just phenomenal when it comes to creating food. And that was his mentor in a sense. And now that he's basically retired, Jeremy finally was able to swindle him to come down into here to start doing his creations within the restaurant.
Awesome. So, we've got the bar here. We've got a room over there. So we've got a bunch of seating here. So do you host events?
That's correct. Okay. The event center, which is called the Gem. What that is, cool part of the building, that used to be a theater. Very cool. True movie theaters. In fact, down there, and I can get you to take some pictures if you want. It shows a theater back when it was in, I'm assuming, the 30s, 40s, through the 70s. Guys wearing knickers, and that's literally, it was a box office. I had a lady here that her dad rented the theater, and they did movies. I think it was Fridays and Saturdays. I don't think you were allowed on Sundays. Okay. I think maybe Wednesdays. The floor that we have down there now, of course, is level, but right underneath it, it's still slanted. It was called the Gem Theater and then the Star Theater. So today we call it the Gem Banquet Room. Okay. Holds about 140 people. It's just a really cool kind of mid-size range where you can do different types of events, receptions. A lot of people come for business meetings. We have it set up, that you can do projection,
awesome,
all that stuff. But yeah, it's a really cool history down there, and just amazing what all happened.
Awesome. All right, Brian, so I want to take a step back here.
Sure.
On a more personal level, what's the last purchase that you splurged on, either for yourself, your family, or business? Besides this building.
Besides the building?
Yeah, besides the building.
That I splurged on that made my life great?
You didn't have to make your life great. You might have bought a car, a wife roses. I don't know. What's the last thing you splurged on, man?
I bought her a new wedding ring.
Awesome.
And she loves me.
Well, you've been with her for a few years now, huh?
25 years. We were on a cruise with my family.
Okay.
And we celebrate 25 years this year. It was last year before the hurricanes came. We've been doing cruises. I have 3 children. Okay.
What are their ages?
23, 21, and 18.
Wow. Okay.
Girl, boy, girl. Gabriella, Josiah, and Rebecca Grace.
Okay.
We've been able to do cruises with my parents for the last several years. And I forget which port we went into, and I just went up, found one of those good diamond places, and surprised her with a ring that just, hey, she lasted 25 years. She's earned it.
She earned that one, right?
Yes, she did.
That was the least you could give her for 25 years.
That's
putting up with you. So, have you ever been on a Mediterranean cruise?
No, I have not.
So my wife and I and two friends did one this past fall. It's like the Greek Isles. We started in Rome and went around the Greek Isles. Went to Santorini, Rhodes, Mykonos. Beautiful.
My wife has asked to do that.
You've got to do it. It was phenomenal.
Well worth it?
It was phenomenal.
And you got to experience the culture?
We did. You know, my wife and I have been to Rome a few times, and like what we did was a few days before and a few days at the end. You know, each kind of port in Greece, each island has kind of like their own flavor.
Okay.
But yes, you do get to experience some of the culture. So a couple of the days we would like literally rent ATVs and like drive around the island and go like secret spots that like basically nobody knew about or it wasn't tourist, but it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. If you can put that on the cruise itinerary, do it.
She wants to do Europe, so
you
that
should do
makes
that.
sense.
You should do that. All right, Brian. So what's a hobby or interest that you enjoy doing outside of work? I know with entrepreneurs like myself, when people ask me this question, it's really what I do with my kids, or reading or something like that, or bettering myself. But give me a hobby or interest that you enjoy.
Biking.
Okay.
Mountain biking, road biking.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. I have two friends that got me into it 5-6 years ago, especially when you can go to the mountains, turn your phone off, and you're riding across paths and trails that you literally can't hike across.
Right.
That was the splurge for myself, buying myself a nice specialized 29-inch mountain bike.
Nice.
Takes me up over rocks. And the only thing you got to be careful is the snakes. And I hate snakes. So you just pedal extra fast when you see them.
There you go. All right, Brian. So when you wake up in the morning, what's inside you that gets you motivated, that you're driven to do? What's your why? Like what you've own a building. I assume this isn't your only investment property.
Correct.
Okay. So you own multiple investment properties.
Correct.
You now run and own a restaurant with your partners.
Correct.
So what's the why?
I feel very blessed to have the family that I have. And this gives me the opportunity that as my children continue to go, back whenever we first started this, my kids were at a younger age. They still remember the days it was Daddy Fridays. And I'd take Friday afternoons off and take my kids somewhere special. Because my wife has another business that two businesses that she runs. She's really the brains of the fact. She runs tremendous businesses. It gave me freedom to be with my family.
Okay. Love it.
Yep.
Love it. All right. So what advice, being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, being a property owner, what advice would you give somebody just starting out in the entrepreneurial world that wants to own multiple properties or own multiple businesses? I know that Robert Kiyosaki, I know that book is great on big overall principles. I also know it specializes zero on how to actually do it, the steps to get from A to Z, that you kind of have to, like you said, get a mentor.
Correct.
To help guide you through that process. So maybe what's a piece of advice that your mentor gave you or something that you could pass along to somebody else, looking to get into what you're doing?
First of all, your take on that book is 100% accurate.
I know.
You've lived it.
Yeah, I know.
It is a great overview, 100%. Surround yourself, and I know people say it all the time, but surround yourself with people of wisdom. Right. And wisdom may look completely different. It's not the person that has been the most successful financially, but the person that is very transparent, a person that you can be real with, a person that you can cuss and swear, cry, just understand. Because I was at a point of bankruptcy at one point in time in my life. I mean, I bought properties wrong. Right. Everything you could imagine doing wrong in business, I did. But luckily people had done it worse at that point in time is what the bankers told me. And they said, hey, you weren't going anywhere. You were stuck with this, and I was able to come up with a plan through the '08 downturn.
Right.
But surrounding your people and being honest about who you are.
I like it. Good. Yeah. I mean, I've got, a few mentors, and we've had this, that's a similar answer that we've gotten from other guests. And they don't have to be mentors that you talk to every day.
Correct.
And you don't have to have one mentor for everything. I've got multiple people that I can lean on, and it might only be once a year that I reach out to Teresa or Ryan or Becky or whoever it is. Hey, what do you think about this? I'm thinking about this. Give me your take. And because in the day-to-day operations, you get piled on with everything, right?
Yes, you do.
You get piled on with 1,000 things. And you can't get the 10,000 foot view.
Correct.
When you're doing the day-to-day operations. So having those mentors that have either been through it or maybe they have your back.
That's a great way of putting it. Yes.
And the advice that you get from them is going to be true and honest.
Yes. Right. Very much so. That's why transparency, you're right.
I agree.
Very important.
All right, so flip side, what's maybe a bad piece of advice that somebody gave you along the ways that didn't work out like that person said it might?
My wife and I we had a business. It came up on a 5-year term, and it was in '08 when all hell was breaking loose.
Right.
Sorry. The economy was going down. I had paid top dollar for things I should never have done. And my mentor told me, a guy that I love dearly, we were trying to get out of a situation and a deal and give a business back to somebody else. And he said, hey, what can they do? You're hawk to the hilt. There's nothing they can take from you. Just tell this person you're done, you're walking away. I did that. I got a letter from her attorney 2 weeks later. Scared the you-know-what out of me. Had no clue how I was going to do it. I was on my knees. I was furious with him. I'm like, this completely backfired. I thought I had hand.
Right.
And in the end, to bring the story full circle, I had to use an attorney several years ago. The attorney that sent me that letter, I went to her and I had her on my side to take care of a situation I needed to take care of.
Right.
And today that business is probably positioned to be one of the best businesses that my wife and I had. So even your mentor can give you unsound advice. His heart was pure.
Right.
We did it. We tried it. It was the wrong thing to do. It was a case of desperation when the whole market
economy, right?
Yeah. But we survived it. We got through it, and we're better today. Even his and my relationship is better today because of that.
Good. Yeah, I think what I do in a day-to-day operations is real estate. I'm seeing indicators that we're close to where we were in '04, '05. I think this economy is really good right now. I don't know how much longer it's going to be good.
Exactly.
So button up, because something's going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years.
Pay that debt down.
Exactly.
Be sitting so that you can actually explode like everyone else did.
Exactly.
Shouldn't say everyone else. Those that are set right.
Exactly. All right, Brian. So what's one choice that you've made in the last 3 years that's had us sitting here across the bar from each other at 104 B Street in Greencastle, Pennsylvania?
I don't want to give you a cheesy answer, but in reality, forgiving myself for the mistakes that I've made.
Okay, I'll take it. I like it. Love it.
Take a deep breath and just realize, hey, life happens.
We're not perfect.
That's right.
Yeah.
And get up, hug your family, move on. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And it's been, in the last 3 years, probably some of the most challenging, but some of the best years of my life.
Awesome. All right, Brian, so you're episode 140 on Advice Givers here. I've got to sit across the mic 139 times, ask questions. I gain so much insight from asking other entrepreneurs and business owners questions that I love it. Like, I love sitting across, learn something new every day. I want to flip the script and have you ask me a question. Then maybe you could learn something.
Why do you do what you do? You say you're in real estate, and yet you're here interviewing. It's fascinating.
It's so there's a backstory to why we're sitting here on Advice Givers. There's a backstory to the Impact Club, which is we are Impact Club. If you haven't heard of the Impact Club, there's 14 chapters across the U.S., Canada, and one in New Zealand. And what it basically is crowdsourcing for local charities. So each Impact Club member. And let me back it up even farther from that. So this morning, I put out a daily email too. This morning on my daily email, which is called Morning Musings, my son wrote me a note in his school. His teacher had him write, somebody that influences you or makes you feel good or whatever. It was his view on me and what I do is that I help people. He's very proud of the Impact Club, and that in a year and 5 events, we've donated over $113,000 to 5 local charities. He comes to all the events. Both of my sons come to all the events, and they get to see Dad acting in a way to give back to the community. Advice giver sitting here. So yes, I do real estate. That's my profession. That's how I make my living. About 6 years ago, I kind of unlocked the secret, the key to connecting with people. It's through storytelling. My business went from here to here, being able to tell the correct stories to get my point across, being able to better communicate with people like yourself. Advice Givers is my way to help you share your story with a larger audience. I'm always looking to fine tune that. This is still a podcast, but we've had a video component to it. Now that we can go to you and help share your story. So now 104 B Street is not just a beautiful building in the corner of Baltimore and
Washington.
In the corner, I can remember that, in the corner of Baltimore and Washington and Greencastle, Pennsylvania. It's got Brian behind it. It's got a beautiful story behind it. So when people come through the front doors now, it's not just a restaurant.
Correct.
Okay, you've put a story to this building, to yourself, to the restaurant. So why I do what I do? The very short answer is for my kids. I want to make them proud. I want to make them proud. They don't care how many houses Dad sold.
Exactly.
They care about how much the Impact Club is donated or how I'm helping other business owners grow their business through story.
Yep.
Okay, so that's good. That was a great question. I hope I didn't go too off tangent there.
Not at all. Not
awesome.
at all.
All right, so and we've talked about this. I'm going to skip this question because I think you've already answered. What failure or loss has helped mold you and set you up for success? You've kind of already talked about that. So I'm going to skip that question because you did a good job filling that in throughout. So Brian, where do you see yourself in 3 years and then in 10 years?
It's funny you asked that. We have another mentor who is what we call our marriage counselor and whatnot. It's time for me to step up to the plate, and some of the small things that I've been taking care of as an entrepreneur,
right.
It's done. My gentleman, Gene, who has just been phenomenal with me, shared me this piece of insight that just blew my mind away 3 weeks ago. He said, anytime you look at a true entrepreneur, whether you're a small guy or the Fortune 100, when their business explodes, you look at the people that have come to surround them. When the right people surround you, watch out. You will explode in areas you have. This restaurant, for example, this restaurant has become, and we are still in the beginning phases of the growth of it. It has become a place, I call it, I want it to be like a Cheers where you can get some really, really good food. But the camaraderie, I've never been in the restaurant business. When they talk about regulars, there are regulars that come. It just blows my mind away. But they come because of the general manager has just been phenomenal at how he can understand and bring the food to a level of explanation that tastes so good. Our servers are just very down and personable, that you're getting to know them by name and different things like that. With our other businesses, we have
so it's about relationships.
Oh,
you're looking to build a restaurant on relationships, and that's why I'm sitting here across the mic from you today. It's because one of my partners, Dawn, is a regular here, and she's a food connoisseur, and she speaks very highly of your restaurant and your food.
Yes, she does, and we appreciate that.
Yeah. So that's awesome. So you're looking, so yes, so it's everything that you do is all about relationships.
Yes.
If you can build a restaurant, yes, it's a place to go eat and drink and hang out and go listen to music.
Correct.
But it's also about those relationships that you can build with your clientele.
Make sure they're genuine.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Brian, so 30 seconds, give me not your pitch, but where are we? How do we find you? Where's the parking for 104 B Street?
Thank you. We are literally in the heart of a small town called Greencastle, Pennsylvania, which is just north of the Mason-Dixon line by 10 minutes off of Interstate 81.
Mm-hmm.
Parking is across the street. It is a small, quaint town. I think there's 4,000 or 5,000 people here.
Okay.
Greencastle is becoming, in a sense, a bit of a hub for Frederick, because when you come west, you hit Hagerstown, and then you either go north or south to Martinsburg or Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And Pennsylvania is just a cool little spot, great mountains, beautiful, beautiful scenery, and just a fun place to hang out. And you can be in DC and Baltimore, and everyone would know within an hour and 20 minutes.
Awesome.
You
Brian?
can be a sports fan to anyone you want here. You can be Pittsburgh, you can be Washington, Baltimore, Philly.
Really?
Oh,
in Pennsylvania, they let you not be a Steelers fan?
You cannot be. You will die half the places, but the other half you'll die.
I love it. Yeah, I don't see any sports.
That is correct.
We're not a sports team here.
We're not a sports bar. We are a social, fun place where, oh, by the way, you can get a great damn burger. Awesome. Brian, I appreciate it. Listeners, viewers, episode 140, Frederick and Vice Givers at 104 B Street in Greencastle, Pennsylvania. And we are out.